Out of paper, out of stock. There's friendly faces around the block. Break loose from the chains that are causing you pain. Call Michael and Stanley, Jim, Dwight, Creed. Call Andy and Kelly for your business paper needs. Or Dunder Mifflin, the people versus paper people. Dunder Mifflin, the people versus paper people. Dunder Mifflin, the people versus paper people.
Hello and welcome to the Michael Scott Podcast Company, a show for fans of The Office by fans of The Office. I'm your host and hot roadie, Sean Roney.
I'm Edwin James, Office Administrator.
And with us, as always, our producer in the warehouse, Mr. Alex Ward.
Everyone sits on a chair every day, but not everyone
sits on a copier.
Or even uses a copier. Every week we get together to talk about our favorite show, NBC's The Office. This week, a very exciting topic, the relationship between Pam and Michael Scott.
Yeah, as we've kind of gone along the course of our show, we haven't done a full episode on Michael because his character encompasses so much of the show. So we've kind of carved it up into different relationships with different characters. We've talked about Michael and Love, and now we're going to Michael and Pam. So this relationship between the regional manager and the receptionist, and how important that is and how much action that drives throughout the show.
It's maybe even the most important friendship, the non-romantic, sometimes at least.
I was going to ask, is this the most important relationship on the show?
I think yes, at least for the first 4 seasons. It definitely is used to frame and set up, and so much of the plot, and to set up every episode.
Mm-hmm. More than just Pam.
You know, yeah, that's a good point. And you know what? I'd say too that we've talked before about how even though in, seasons 1 through 7, it's pretty, Michael Scott obviously is the star of the show, but we've talked before on the show that we think like the real hero of the show is Pam. It's kind of really about her growth, it seems like, more than anyone else. So really we're talking about the two main characters of the show.
Absolutely.
In preparing for this episode, and watching all these episodes back to back to back, I was struck by how often the show utilizes the same sort of device to set up an episode or to get into an episode, which is Pam is sitting at her desk, Michael enters and does something, or throws his coat at her,
True.
Yeah.
And something will happen in the office, and then it cuts to a talking head of Pam saying, "It's this day in the office," and what that means is that Michael does this. And that's what happens. So often it's Pam reacting to Michael or explaining to the audience and the documentary crew what's going on that day. She is, in effect, a narrator for the show in a way.
She's quite literally also the first line of defense between Michael and the office. Like she's the first, like literally when you walk in, Michael comes in, she's the first person he talks to. And like you said, Edwin, she's going to set up, oh, Michael's wearing his jeans today. Or, Michael throws a coat at me and he's watching all these movies, take your pick, there's a ton of them. But yeah, she that's a really good way. I kind of never really thought of it that way, but yeah, she totally does set up a ton of episodes. Those a lot of episodes you hit play and it starts with a quick zoom in on Pam from a distance working, and then she looks up and her reaction, whatever Michael is, sets the tone for the whole episode.
Or I'm just remembering the injury too, where she's just sitting there and answers the call.
When he wants to adopt a child, she has to just deal with that at reception and between calls.
So many great moments. Well, why don't we just start here, because we've got a lot to dig into on this episode, and I'm really excited to do it. But just as a jumping off point, what is a moment in the show when you think about Pam and Michael? What is a scene or a moment that jumps out to you right away?
There's so many cold opens that would be very easy to reference.
Right.
For me, I think, I hate to start at the end, but the moment that stands out to me is Pam rushing to meet Michael
of course.
At the end of Goodbye Michael, and that sort of button or end point on their relationship, and kind of seeing how far they've come. And I guess the second one, if I can pick two, is almost in the pilot, and when he fake fires her and she says, "You're a real jerk," and it really sets up the beginning where she so often has to react to what Michael is doing and deal with whatever Michael wants her to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, of course, those are, you know, maybe the two most important moments in there.
I think about Michael revealing to Pam that he's dating her mom. Just that whole scene.
Who is it?
Who is it, Michael? In the blooper reel.
It's gonna be okay.
He says, "Hi." I wish they hadn't cracked in that scene and they could have used that instead, because it's just so.
There's so many fantastic Pam just absolutely horrified reactions to Michael doing something inappropriate to her. I mean, for whatever reason, a scene that really just I always think about when I think about those two is in Diwali, when they Michael is outside. He's like choking down some spicy food or something like that, and she brings him a glass of water. She sits down next to him. He's like, we're so much the same, both victims of a broken engagement. He's referring to asking Carol to marry him, and she says no. Pam's like, not really. Then he goes in for the kiss. She says something like, I thought something was going to happen tonight too. And he's like kind of misreads what she's saying, and then goes in for the kiss, and then she backs off, and she's like, she's like, what are you doing? He's like, what are you doing? Rejecting your kiss. and then
it's the cringe. I think it's the cringe.
It's so cringy. It's so cringy. But the best part is that right after that, Michael just goes, I need a ride home. And she's like, you can sit in the back. So it's just like, it's so perfect for their relationship. It's like Pam knows everything, all, you know, Michael's flaws and everything wrong with him, but still is, you know, looking out for him and just, you know, has his back. And of course, it's just Michael being a friggin' idiot all the time. But that's
Wait,
just
you
me.
You have to finish out the final moment of that whole scene. Edwin, would you please finish that moment out for us?
Yeah, it's just a long beat of silence with Michael in the back of the car, and he says, "These aren't my shoes."
Oh my gosh.
In terms of comedic value and having to react to what Michael does, the one that made me laugh the hardest today while I was prepping is in the carpet in season 2 when Michael walks in and says, "Spamster." Pam says, "Pam plus spam plus," and he goes, "Hamster." He says, "How was your vacation?" She says, "It was great." Michael, "Yeah?" And Pam says, "Mm-hmm." And Michael says, "Did you get lucky?" "Ooh, boink."
Boink.
Her kind of horrified reaction and the word boink just really, really got me.
One last one, just to that I think seamlessly marries together the silliness of their relationship with the intimacy of their relationship, is almost totally silent, which is when Michael wants to meet up with her and he just goes over to Pam's desk and he does the she goes, I weirdly know exactly what you're saying. Great, so I'll see you at Meredith's car in 5 minutes.
You didn't need to. It's so good. They have such an incredible chemistry, and I think what's really great is that we, as you know, as the audience, you really watch it grow from nothing. I mean, from less than nothing. These people, like Pam, should hate this man. So I think it's really, really fascinating. Especially, it was really great going back and rewatching those seasons and trying to find those moments that are building that relationship between them, because you really can watch it come together piece by piece. It's really well done, and I think that's why it's so special.
Going from season 1 to season 2, there's kind of a correction that happens where I think some of the critique of The Office in the first season was that Steve Carell's character was not likable at all, or not likable enough. And obviously, I mean, you know, I think we all love those episodes. They're very funny, but Michael does have much more of a harsh edge, and his decisions seem to impact people a lot more negatively in that first season. And I think a big piece of turning that around in season 2 is the way that Pam sort of guides him in these moments or these interactions. I'm thinking of in Casino Night when she allows him to have that first take at answering the phone.
Mm-hmm,
It kind of saves him from making that embarrassing introduction. I'm thinking, and then it goes the other way as well. So on one hand, yes, Pam is working she helps kind of shape Michael Scott into someone that can be a little more endearing. He's still stupid, but we love him anyway.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that we begin to see in season 2 is where Michael actually lifts up Pam in ways that are surprising and unexpected. So I'm thinking of the Dundies, the very first episode.
Yep.
Where what we expect from the previous version of Michael Scott is to continue this long-running joke that he finds hilarious, but is at someone else's expense and causes some pain. But at the end, granted with Jim's encouragement, he flips it to the Whitest Sneakers Award, and it becomes a really positive, nice moment.
Right. Well, I think that's great that you brought that up because you're exactly right. I mean, season 1, we get, in the pilot, Michael fake fires Pam, causes her to cry, causes her to call him a jerk. He's totally inappropriate to her, always kind of referring to her as like the hot one in the office and blah, blah, blah. Besides Ryan, of course.
Or Katie.
Or Katie. Yes. That specifically is an episode with some cringe moments between them. But I think it's interesting the switch that happens pretty much in the Dundies in that whole episode, because I think it's really well done. Because
I think it's the best episode of The Office.
It's a great episode, but someone wrote something mean about Michael in the bathroom, and we learned that
Dave Barry?
The Dave Barry reference. God.
Do I get the Dave Barry reference? I don't think I get the Dave Barry reference.
I don't think you do.
Yeah. I think you do, Mon.
He was a humorist,
American humorist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Writer, newspaper humorist.
Someone wrote something about Michael in the bathroom. We learned that it was Pam. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, real quick, does that even for what little we know about Pam so far, it feels a little out of character for her, right? Do you feel that way?
Not to leave a note.
A note?
I was thinking of the microwave.
Yeah, is it a thing on the bathroom wall?
I guess you're right.
Yeah, did she sign it sincerely disappointed?
But it was probably it's probably got like the smack of like a bully in middle school writing something mean about someone on a bathroom wall, right? Okay, so then
it doesn't seem like something that Pam would do in the later version of the show, where she's kind of evolved and grown a little bit.
Right.
But in the first couple seasons, especially when she and Jim are making fun of Dwight a little bit, and their pranks feel sometimes a little bit more mean-spirited than they do later on, I think it doesn't feel super out of character to me.
I guess you're right. I'm thinking. I mean, you're right. In the Alliance, she's a little bit cruel to Dwight. But so at the Dundies, right later, Roy and Daryl are just like, we're done with this, and they start getting up to leave. Michael's noticing it, and he's like, guys, Pam, show's not over. And she is conflicted in that moment. And she looks at Michael and says, sorry, and leaves, right? Only to, as soon as she gets outside, tell Roy, no, I want to stay. So what I'm thinking is that at this point in the episode, Pam's like been trying to be one of the mean kids, been trying to be a bully like, Roy or maybe even Jim. But that's not who she is really. And so when Michael calls her out, she feels sympathy for him, and she feels ashamed for acting the way that she's been acting. And then at that point, we see a total switch in her. She's trying to support Michael, trying to get everyone to have fun and all this stuff. And it's a great coincidence that Michael also kind of pulls through for her and doesn't give her the longest engagement award.
There's a good lesson there where just one person cheering and being positive in a situation like that can kind of change the enemy in the room, or the energy in the room, and really cause a lot more people to kind of go along, clap, and kind of have a good time. I think she does such a good job of that, even though she's had a lot of second drinks.
She has. Stanley does that later in the roast scene when Michael comes back and roasts everyone. It's just one person to start laughing or get into it. And then she also does it, of course, and we'll get to this later, when the Michael Scott Company, when Michael's freaking out, making breakfast, and she's the calm one. She resets the energy of just being like, no, we're okay. Let's make a list and just do one thing.
For sure. But I mean, without a doubt, this is like
my Crocs.
I mean, but I think the Dundee is absolutely the turning point, and there's something about Michael being the kid who gets picked on that all of a sudden Pam just can't justify treating him the way that everyone else does, even if he is an idiot, even if he is really rude to her a lot.
Pam shows him so much patience and kind of grace and compassion. It makes the moment in the injury when he calls her and is trying to get her to rub butter on his foot, where she really looks exasperated and past her limit. And I thought that was a funny moment because we don't get to see Pam frustrated with Michael that often. We see her, having to deal, but very rarely is she that visibly upset.
She's like an elementary school teacher with Michael most of the time, of just like, I understand kids, I understand how they work, and certain amount of breathing room you just have to have with just like, let them do their thing and we'll circle back with them in a second. And she's a great comparison time and again, because he's very much like a 10-year-old.
I want to talk about grief counseling.
Okay.
Which is a big episode, but we'll go back to it. I want to skip it just because I wanted to mention, like, what you were saying, like her always being like an elementary school teacher to him, like in the initiation pretzel day, right? Jan asks Pam to track Michael's every move throughout the day, write it down, send it to corporate. And instead, she is kind of spending the whole day trying to keep Michael on track and trying to cover for him whenever Jan calls. Like he's asleep in his office and she's like, he's on a sales call. And there's that moment at the end where she's like, so-and-so Costolini or whatever called for you again. And he tries to make the Cosby joke again, like Costolini, the Jello.
Caselli.
Caselli, thank you.
I think it's Brent Caselli.
Right. Nice.
With the Jello.
With the Jello. But she looks him in the eyes and is like, this is a huge sale. And he's like, right. Thank you. And I think that's like one of those first times that we see her power over him. Like,
she's kind of complimenting him though, right? Because they already made the sale, right? It's like near the end of the episode because Michael's like, oh yeah, it is. Right. It was a big sale. Somehow Pam was like just providing enough like bowling alley bumpers to just keep Michael in bounds that day to make that sale.
That's
and probably saved his job.
I never caught that she's telling him that they made the sale. But
like, that was a huge sale. Like, nice job, Michael. And he's just like, oh, yeah, thanks. Even though you could probably, like, Pam should get commission on that sale for just keeping Michael in bounds all day and like
waiting in the pretzel line for him.
Yeah, and maybe it was his brief spike of energy when you see the hey, and he does the step up on the chair.
Let's make a deal.
That's just like peak Michael. I love it. And but you could attribute a lot of it to Pam. I mean, how many times has she just saved his job in one way or another?
Yeah.
I mean, her and Jim, but her especially.
I did mention grief counseling. I think this is a really important episode for them. This is in season 3, early season 3, when Jim's not around. So Pam has to kind of rebuild her identity at Dunder Mifflin. She's also not with Roy anymore. So she's kind of realizing that she's not like Jim. I think there's that moment where she's having Dwight race around the building with the thermometer. There's a few times where she kind of tries a more mean-spirited prank and it doesn't really work out. But there's something about these pranks that they're not pranks. But she's like kind of has fun with teaching them Michael things or Dwight things. I mean, so grief counseling.
She plays along. Like she's not pranking.
Right. We see her do it a few times.
Okay, I'll play along with you until you're done. Yeah.
I love in that moment too, where she's trying to decide, where she's clocking Dwight with that thermometer. I don't know if this am I being mean to Dwight. He does make my life really hard sometimes. Yeah. So there's that sort of back and forth, but I think it's really interesting to hear her vocalize where, is it, she's questioning whether or not it's right to do something like this to Dwight, just to make him run in circles.
Right.
It's pretty innocuous.
I think there's something interesting in that grief counseling. They have this part where, Michael's asking everybody to tell a story about someone they know who's died. So Pam starts up a prank where they just recount plots of movies where people have died. She does $1 Million Baby. Kevin blows it by talking about Weekend at Bernie's. And it's kind of a prank that doesn't really go anywhere.
Ryan does Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. But then there's something about Pam.
The
But then
Ryan King.
the Ryan King. Yes. But then Pam instead pivots and, first of all, is the only person in the office who seems to understand Michael's complex thought here, that if no one cares about Ed Truck dying, no one's going to care about Michael Scott dying. If no one cares about this bird dying alone, no one's going to care about Michael Scott dying alone, right? That's what's going on in his head. No one else can seem to figure this out. Toby's like, Michael, death is a part of life. Like, fucking Toby, just not helping at all. But she picks up on what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she makes the sweet little coffin for the bird. She's the one whose idea it is for Dwight to get the recorder. She says this beautiful eulogy at the funeral that is a metaphor for Michael that's so clear even Michael gets it. So anyways, and Edwin, you've talked before so many times about her emotional empathy, or her like
Emotional intelligence.
Intelligence.
She's very good at picking up on Michael's frequency, and a lot of times when it's causing a lot of havoc around the office. And she does so much to kind of pick him up in those kinds of moments. That happens later in the show too, with like lecture circuit, when they go to Nashua together, and she's picking him up and kind of helping him get through how much he's struggling, because he's dealing with Holly.
Right.
And I think she's the one who kind of shepherds him through that. So they go to Nashua to try to get Michael some closure.
Mm-hmm.
She's not there, and Michael sort of spirals and has to go outside. And Pam coaches him back up by saying, imagine when she gets back and everyone's going to tell her about the amazing job that you did with this presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Michael literally falls on the floor, Pam is still trying to help him. Michael, get off the floor.
Yeah, right. Give him an out. Like, give him an out.
I'm just trying to bridge the gap between what just happened and the fact that I'm going to be finishing this presentation.
She starts doing the mnemonic device to memorize names. Penguin.
Yeah.
Holly's boyfriend.
It's so good. I wrote down, rewatching that episode, I wrote down, like, they kind of have like a Don Quixote Sancho Panza vibe going on, where Michael is just this kind of like crazy person, and Pam is both always babysitting him and his loyal minion. Like,
yeah, that's true. And she develops a very good sense of understanding Michael's capacity for destruction, and she's very good at looking at all the ways this could play out and knowing which one Michael's going to take.
Oh my
how
gosh,
dangerous it's going to be. And that happens a few times. I mean, name
herpes.
The herpes thing. Another biggest one is when Michael's considering how to propose to Holly, and she gets the situation, which is literally an explosive situation, a flammable situation where Michael's poured gas all over the parking lot. And she, in one fell swoop, is able to dissuade him from lighting the parking lot on fire, including himself, because he has gas all over himself, and also helping Michael calm down and being like, no, you guys love each other. You need to do this right. Michael, this is a special, perfect person for you. And in that moment, she's like taking the gas can away from him, but also reassuring him. It's like the most incredible move that I think she pulls with Michael. And there's a couple other times I'm blanking where she kind of reads what the destruction could be, and she tries to get in front of it. It's like a runaway train thing.
That's what she says. Yeah, she has to stop a Michael train of thought before it spirals out of control.
Yeah, and
maybe Michael Scott Paper Company with him making the French toast over and over again.
Yeah, it happens again and again, but it really speaks to both of their characters, that she understands him enough that she almost allows him to like have the freedom to have these sort of big thoughts, because that's a lot of what Michael is these big grand ideas, and she's just like, how can I actually help harness that? And likewise, Michael is able to sometimes pull Pam out of thinking too narrowly and small and making her think bigger and having her zoom out on her life. They have this really nice inverse relationship where they do that for each other.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, I was,
Thank you,
I was, you're welcome. I was watching a local ad today and just
was it, what was it? Like a
Shane Company.
Shane Company? Or what are you talking?
I learned recently that Shane Company
yeah,
is
it's
in
not
other
a-
states.
I know,
Yes.
but everyone
And that
did
was,
this logo.
I know.
I heard someone else sing
That's
the jingle
messed
with
up.
different hours and streets and
Yeah.
directions, and I was
I
like,
know.
"Oh, no,
What?
no."
I thought that was my friend in the diamond business.
That's my friend, dude. He's open
Oh.
Saturday, Sunday till 5. He's next to the Washington Square Mall. He's not wherever you think he is.
Oh my God. What were we talking about?
What did you notice in the local ad episode, Shane?
Yes.
Like Michael and Pam make such a great team, and you're absolutely right that sometimes they kind of like challenge each other to think bigger or do better, greater things. I thought in local ad, there's just kind of that the post-production team on the ad is Michael, Pam, and Dwight, who I mean, Dwight's just kind of there for support, I figure.
Security.
Watching Michael edit in his office.
Right.
He would say
Bringing
security,
him-
but
yeah,
he's
sure.
he's just sleeping with his space.
Sure. So, I mean, really, it's just Michael and Pam. And so, like, she decides to stay the night there. And then, because of this thing that Michael needs her to do, she creates this beautiful little animation that she never would have done otherwise. Right. So I thought that was really cool. I think it was just a nice foreshadowing to Michael Scott Paper Company, to
It is, yeah.
you know.
They both really need that ad. Like Pam needs something to like be creative at, and Michael needs to be thought of as a creative and be respected in that way. And so it's like, of course, those are the only two that stay up all night working on that ad.
Right.
When you talk about them having a sort of dependence or like a symbiotic relationship, or the fact that they kind of help each other out in certain ways, I was drawn to in the episode is Women's Appreciation, season 3.
Okay.
When they go to the mall and Michael has that talking head where he talks about the wishes that he would give for everyone in the office. And he says for Pam, he wishes that she had courage. And I think it plays out in the next few episodes where, in the Beach Games episode, where Pam summons the courage to do the coal walk and to have her speech in front of Jim. And then later she talks about, I want to say it's in The Job, where she talks about how she finally had the courage to end things with Roy, and how it only took her 3 years. She realized she was with the wrong person. And those are the kinds of things she's alluding to in her talking head. But there's a moment where she said, it only took me 3 years to do it. And then she does a little fake bow. And I think the way that Michael and Pam sort of complement each other is Pam has a lot of emotional intelligence that Michael clearly does not. And Pam often struggles with courage, and Michael has that in untethered, unleashed, reckless abandon.
Michael has emotional confidence. Not intelligence. Yeah.
So they kind of help each
Food
other
of
out.
the
in that
wise
regard.
man, the liquor of the fool. Yeah.
A great imagination.
Another example of this is in season 3 in the episode's Business School, where at the end it's Pam's art show. So we know what this moment is when Michael's the only one.
This is
one of the big 3 moments between them, I'd say. Yeah.
So Pam has her art show and no one from the office shows up. There's that older woman who looks very skeptically at the art. Well, perhaps someday.
Yeah. Or dude, Gil and Oscar just calling it motel art and comparing her to Vincent van Gogh. It's like, back off.
It's Gil. It's not Oscar. Oscar's actually like, she's doing her thing. Whatever.
And then Oscar says those aren't Pam's strong suits.
Well, they say real art takes courage. That's what they say in that moment. Right. So I thought about that again. So that's kind of a through line for Pam's character. Right. And then when Michael shows up and he's so overwhelmed, these could be tracings, is what he says.
Yeah. I love that. That's
that effort, just putting in that positivity and lifting her up, does so much for her in that moment where she feels so down and so low. And the only person that comes to see her is Roy. Even then you can tell he's trying, but he's not really succeeding. Your art was the prettiest art of all the art.
And then he's like, come home with me, right? Like, I brought my brother. That was cool.
You notice that he also brought his brother to her worst first date ever, which is that minor league hockey game.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that Pam likes to see Kenny.
Yeah, bringing Kenny is not
Special
the mark of being a good
Never.
boyfriend.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, in that moment, she just wants someone to just validate her at all, of just being like, this is good. This is awesome that you did this.
And he
like,
does so much more than that. He does. I mean, he's proud of her he says, I'm really proud of you.
Mhm.
He's like, how much? I don't see a price, like just the way that he says that, he's like, I would have, not only does he want to buy it, he's assuming that it's for sale, which I think she is just, thrilled by that. That's a genuine.
I love that moment. I'm glad you mentioned it, because to your point, yes, it's one step beyond I'm showing up, another step beyond saying I'm here and I support you, to say how much that just assumes that she is an artist who is selling her work.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to that end point, which I thought was really great and really.
And he's like,
yeah.
And he's like, it has to be framed. It has to be in the office. He's like, oh, and then I love that he's like, there's my car. And, oh, is that your car? So it's like the only two cars in the parking lot are Michael and Pam.
And yeah, and that's where the whole show ends, is pretty much on that painting,
Do you have something in your pocket?
Chunky. Oh, it's good. That is a really beautiful moment. And like, is that, I think, one of 3 times Michael makes Pam cry? Twice for joy, once for anger. Maybe there's another one in there. I'm thinking at the end, in that scene, she's happy, and then she's in the pilot, she's very upset and crying.
Very upset and crying.
Yeah.
Another great episode for me is Job Fair between Pam and Michael. There's some great back and forth between them in that episode. I love Michael. Do you remember you specifically told me to only bring one sheet of paper? You said it only takes one sheet of paper to make a difference. I said, are you sure, Michael? And you said, Pam, Pam, Pam. And you sneezed in my face, and they said, don't worry, it's just allergies. Do you remember that? He says, no.
Another episode where they're in another small moment with Pam, where she goes to her art room and she's like, oh, I wonder if it's still up. And like, nope, no, of course it's not. Like, no one remembers you there. And that's a small version of the issue that Michael's dealing with that whole episode, which is no one cares about your little paper company. No one wants to work there.
Yeah.
We want the best and brightest. And then he ends up, blowing the only lead they get on an internship.
They really are, that's funny that you bring that up, because they really are the only 2 people who seem to view the Scranton branch as a family, and they value it, right? I mean, Pam does that until the end of the show. That's kind of the issue that she runs into with Jim later. And Michael, we all, ever since, season 2, really, we know that he is, he's always thinking of Scranton branch as a family and wanting them to stay together. I don't think anyone else feels this way. Dwight would love to see everybody fired. Jim wants to move on to bigger and better things. And
Kevin might feel that way. Just feels like he might.
I don't know if he feels that deeply about it, but maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, Michael lists out that whole thing. Pam, you're my wife. Jim, Ryan is my son. Stanley, you're our mailman.
Oh my goodness!
But it's true. I wonder. It's probably. I think initially it's born out of Pam's job as the receptionist of, like, you're basically you're sort of overseeing everyone's interactions throughout the day, be it patching through phone calls, be it organizing meetings or whatever, all the sort of tasks that she does. So it's like her job is to essentially run the office as a family, right? And Michael is supposed to be running it in terms of the work. Now, usually they end up actually kind of switching those roles where, like, Michael would probably be a great receptionist, just like we see Andy being a great receptionist when he actually sits down there. Michael would be awesome at that job. And I bet Pam would make a way better manager than Michael. It's like they actually mirror each other in some ways. And so I think that's a good point, Sean, that it's like it's initially born out of their jobs, but yeah, they do have that equal level of care that everyone in the office is happy to be there.
And I think that, and I think that they seem to be like kindred spirits. You know, they seem to be drawn to each other. And when Michael leaves the office in New Boss, I think it is, but you know, season 5 after Charles Minor and all that, and says that he's going to go start a paper company, Pam's like, oh my God, I'm going with him. And there's that moment in the parking lot where Michael's like, Jim, like, we're having a company meeting. And I mean, it just seems like, I think that there's something in Pam that, you know, yes, she wants to take a
Timothy.
Pam wants to take a
okay
leap.
if I call you Jim?
I mean, yeah, she wants something new and she wants to take a leap and stuff like that. But I think there's maybe something going through her head when Michael walks out of the office that she's just like, I need to be with him. Like, well, that's what I've been working on this whole time.
You see her struggle with that, with her statement of like, are you doing your best here? Mm-hmm. You know, that's essentially what cuts to her core, and we see her think about that, and and then at that, I mean, you know, we'll talk about Michael Scott and beyond, but before that, her relationship with him is different, and it changes in that moment where he becomes a leader, not just the person Pam takes care of.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't want to be a receptionist, and he's like, right, like junior executive, and she's like salesman, and he's just like, right. Yeah, he's just like, he's very impressed. I mean, I think it's, you know, it goes back to him wanting to see her have courage and things like that. So
I think too, one thing to consider is in that moment we're post art school, and we also hear from Pam where she says, or kind of confides in Michael and Ryan, that she had applied to these sort of big box stores on the weekends to try to make some extra money, and she couldn't even get an interview. So in terms of her professional life, she's really far down. And this new manager comes in and Michael leaves, and Michael was the one who had seen so much in her. And her future must seem pretty bleak in that moment, outside of her future with Jim, which is clearly positive in terms of the family. But it does seem as this one shining moment to try something different and try something new. So it makes sense that she follows him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also, like previously too, like Michael has a clear respect for Pam in a lot of different ways. And I think that started, again, based on their jobs, like Pam is able to delight Michael in so many ways, whether it's just walking in with a little sticky note that says something.
Oh, like, hiya, buddy.
Yeah, and she plays along with him and is just delights Michael to the point where, like, if he could pick anyone, you know, to join his team, it's like, give me Pam. I mean, I want her there. She makes my life better. You know, clearly that's like she has so much value to Michael. But I think in that moment, Michael hasn't had much value to Pam until then.
That's a good point. Because I mean, yeah, he doesn't ask her to come with him. You know, he just kind of puts it out to everybody. But she feels it, and I think they both realize it in that moment in the parking lot. There's also something great that happens there, though, where they walk off together. And both kind of start to like realize what they've just done, right? The high of quitting and finding each other. I don't know if you guys ever seen The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman, right?
You betcha.
Yeah. That's the ending of that movie is, you know, Dustin Hoffman like interrupting a wedding, and the two of them, he runs off with the bride, and they get in the back of a bus, and they have these smiles, and then there's just like, it's just that fixed shot on them where they're like, oh, what's next?
Wow, whoa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're realizing what they have ahead of them, and they take it on.
Have you been watching the HBO show Run?
No.
Can't say that I have, no.
It's a whole show kind of about that.
Oh, interesting.
It's about that moment, yeah.
Interesting.
It's not about Dwight running around the parking lot or Michael trying to set a speed limit.
Yeah, it's a 6-part live feed of Dwight running around the
31. Eat that, Carl Lewis.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a defining moment after the Dundies where they become, where their friendship is really becoming solid? You know, not that Pam's learning to deal with. Yeah.
I think it's got to be the art show. That's to me a big change.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead. Please.
I think the beauty of that relationship and friendship is how much it evolves over the show and how it goes in both directions. Like we were saying, Michael and Pam lift up each other, and help each other out a number of different times, and it's sort of a slow burn. I love to. I'm thinking, post art show when when Pam is along with the other women in the office is trying to guide Michael through his relationship with Jan and how unhappy he is. And how they have this support group and this sort of circle of ladies that helps out Michael. And when Jan comes in, and Michael's first reaction is, why?
So funny.
Then he calls her Janet.
Yeah.
He says, I need my girls in the conference room. And Pam says, Meredith? That's backup. but this is Pam, Karen, Angela, and Phyllis.
Yeah.
But they coach him on not breaking up with Jan and trying to stay strong. And granted, your advice was good, Pam, but hers was bigger.
Right. Yeah.
That's the line. But
yeah.
It's only to say that there are so many moments. It's obviously we have these big ones that we've gravitated towards, but there are so many small ones. I think one thing that I noticed in prepping for this that I wouldn't have thought of consciously just normally watching the show is how whenever Michael in the first 3 or 4 seasons needs an example or needs a person to go to, he goes to Pam. I'm thinking of at Jim's party during performance review when he needs a karaoke partner, he looks to Pam. During The Convict in season 3, when he's trying to make these terrible comparisons between trusting white people and black people, he throws to Pam first. Who's a white person that you trust, that he can come over the top. So
also when
every single moment,
when the dust settles playing football in the office, he throws to Pam.
Yeah.
Pam!
Right.
Pam, can you come in here, please? She's always the first person that he goes to.
Totally.
I love that you mentioned Jan because there's a couple of moments that come to mind thinking about Jan and Pam and Michael.
Oh, the Pam Jan.
This is Fun Run.
That's season 4, episode 1, Fun Run.
Season 4, episode 1.
When Pam is helping him organize the Fun Run, and she knocks on the door, and he says, "Come in," and she opens the door, and he doesn't have his pants off, and she sees his penis. So, real quick. Do we think that was a legitimate act? Is his subconscious, like, we know that Michael has this kind of crush on Pam, right? Did he intend for this to happen, or
does he?
Because he says "come in," right?
He does say it. I don't think it's intentional.
Does he think it's going to be Jan?
I've never thought about that before.
I don't know. Anyways,
come in.
I've only ever read it as an accident.
Yeah.
May I enter the room?
Yes, or come in.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say. Speaking of genitals, not the last time she sees Michael's wiener, but during the when he's in the robe, Michael's got paper company and sits down, and she goes, "Why don't we?"
Yes, that's right.
So she's seen his wiener twice, but I think he gets his full comeuppance in the delivery when he walks in while she's having the baby, and he gets repaid in full, way more, and he just comes out of there.
That baby's gonna have a lot of hair.
Yeah. So anyway, that's another aspect of their relationship.
I'm glad you mentioned the delivery, because something that I thought of too was when Pam is having her sort of freak out moment in the break room, where Jim and Kevin and Michael are trying to kind of console her and get her to leave. Michael looks at her and says, "Where are you gonna go? Hospital. What are you gonna have? A baby."
Yeah, that's right.
He's there for her in that moment as well.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Back to Jan.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's the part in Fun Run where she's working the event, and she's like, sounds like somebody got a little peek at Michael. She's like, "Oh no," and Jan's kind of like back off.
Fine.
And then dinner party when we learn that Michael told Jan that they have a romantic history. And so what I'm wondering is he being like, "Oh, well, there was something there," and then not saying anything? Or did he invent some whole romance between them and tell her
I just wonder. Jan, right? We know he hates Jan. And I'll go back to Jan and I hate Jan. Oh. I think he made it up to just make her feel jealous, to make him desirable and make her jealous.
You're so right. You're so right.
I think he just was like, yeah, Pam will make Jan mad because she's younger
You're right.
And, you know, Pam or Jan probably resents Pam or something. I don't know.
Or do you think,
You're absolutely right.
just as another idea, do you think that Michael made it up because he was jealous of or suspects that Jan was doing something with Hunter, her assistant?
Both of you guys are absolutely right. Both of you guys are absolutely right. Those were great answers. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Well, I mean, what other defining moments or favorite moments do you have for these two?
One thing that I love about this relationship in The Office is that, you know, so it's a constant until Michael leaves, with Pam sort of as Michael's emotional support and vice versa at times. But there is a clear sort of moment where Pam has outgrown her traditional role as receptionist, and it's following. It's after season 6 where she's, you know, been a salesman for a little while, and Erin has become sort of firmly entrenched in the receptionist role, where Michael is not satisfied with Erin and her performance,
Right.
and so he kind of defaults to Pam.
Right, and Erin's kind of hurt by that.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of Scott's Tots when Michael is not impressed with what Erin's itinerary. And
you
it's
are
just
the best in the biz.
Yeah.
That's what she says to Pam.
There's something really,
He
there's
is a
something
legend.
hilarious. Yeah, right. There's something hilarious about how Erin slots right into that role and does it with such like an earnest sort of cheer, where
Mhm.
Pam had done it with sort of a self-aware kind of understanding of what Michael is, and Erin is so happy to be there.
She's like happy and eager, and yeah, Pam had more of a malaise of just like, oh, this guy.
Or I'm thinking of in The Search in season 7 when Michael gets lost, and the 3 characters that go to search for him are Dwight, Holly, and it's Erin. But Erin is kind of filling the role of the receptionist at the time, the person who takes care of Michael and kind of fulfills his different sort of asks throughout the day.
Mhm.
It's kind of when you consider how many times Michael slights Pam over the course of the show. I'm thinking, and the thing that jumped to mind immediately is Beach Games, when he pretty much.
Totally.
You know, I mean, even at the end of her speech, which Sean loves, at the very end of it, she's like, you know, and Michael's like, Pam,
like
that was amazing, but we're still looking for someone in the background in sales. You know, like he doesn't consider the fact that Pam has just shown some pretty good leadership qualities right then, you know, and eventually, you know, they work together as almost equals.
Pam could have been a good manager for the branch in a way.
I'm better than Michael, I'm sure, but
Definitely.
it wouldn't has been a funny of a show probably.
Mm-hmm. Although her sales aren't very good.
Her sales are not very good, but that changes. I don't know. To go back to your question, Sean, I mentioned earlier, I think what some of the biggest 3 moments between them are. One of them is the finale, which I think we'll probably save for like talking about the finale at some point. We can mention it here. I think the art show is a huge one. And in the middle there's a lot. I mean, the entire thing with him dating Helene, and it comes down to the punch.
Oh yeah.
He's supposed to punch Michael. I mean, it's this moment where, you know, if she does that, if she punches Michael, I mean, you just wonder, can you ever turn back from that? Does that put a block in their relationship that they can't overcome? Because like, part of what makes that moment so great is Michael breaks down like a little boy, and eventually it's just going, don't, like, there's a certain way Michael cries where he kind of does this like this kind of whimpery like thing.
It's the same.
Yeah, and Pam can't follow through with the punch, and basically, you know,
it's the same thing with the Dundies when she just can't be this person who writes things about Michael in the bathroom and gets up and leaves in the middle of his set just to, like, you know, say, you know, screw this guy, you know. It's like she just like, no, I'm just not that person.
But if she's given a good reason to, I mean, then it's on an equal plane, because essentially Michael has that one last comment of like, for the record, she came on to me, and she just turns around and wallows a big old slap.
I saw Pam's big, strong hand
Are you okay?
Towards my face.
No, you're okay.
No. And he's like, why are you limping? But yeah, but that's such a just big moment for that too, of like, it's more a moment that represents this ultimate challenge of their relationship, which is what if Michael Scott dated one of your parents, dated your mom?
Yeah.
And,
well, my mom's in a wheelchair. He could still. Never mind.
Yeah.
That's a moment where Pam is speaking directly to the audience, where she says, Michael Scott is dating your mother. There are a number of moments like that over the course of the show where Pam, literally in sort of this narrative sort of tone, covers it. I'm thinking, too, of when they find Dwicht,
Right.
Red Level Midnight Script. There are a number of little moments like that.
Mm-hmm. When she sort of sees the bird funeral through back in season 2, that's another time she's really taking care of Michael's psyche, you know. And we sort of already talked about this a bit, but the way she the care she puts into making that box for the bird, and then she causes Michael to cry. Yeah, exactly.
Her
It kind of goes
speech is
both ways.
so beautiful. I mean, she's talking about in her little eulogy that she does. She talks about, you know, how, you know,
she's talking to Michael. Yeah.
This bird didn't die alone. You know, we know that he had friends and family, and he just wanted to come into our office and spread his joy and stuff like that. I mean, it's giving me chills just even, you know, repeating it very badly right now.
Maybe he wanted to deliver a special present, like that one bird surprised Oscar that one morning. Oh yeah, I remember that. That was so funny.
But she's speaking directly to Michael through this bird in a way that, you know, respects his privacy without calling him out to everyone, but also consoling him.
What's crazy is that she does it in such a perfect way that he gets it. He's looking at her like he's like realizing like, oh wait, Michael's so dumb, he doesn't even realize that all this is about him, right? This is like, it's like his subconscious, like, and he just reacts to his emotions, right? All of a sudden he's standing in the parking lot and realizing, wait, maybe this is all about me. And maybe I'm worried about this, and maybe I should be, you know, thinking about it the way Pam thinks about it. It's just, I mean, I think so much happens in that moment, and yeah, it's really incredible that, you know, Pam just takes the initiative to do that.
Yeah.
Pam takes similar initiative to remove the battery when Michael is an office drone. We are office drones. All we do is work. I was just learning to take out his batteries.
Her ability to play along.
You know, we went up against this moment earlier in the show, and then we kind of turned away from it.
Yeah.
But when in the lecture circuit episodes, when when Michael cuts the sleeve off of Holly's jacket and downloads the file, Dear Michael, Pam volunteers to read it.
Right.
And she delivers the news to Michael that she still has feelings for you. It's not over. She leaves it kind of vague. I actually also think this is a moment where Pam is talking to the audience. I guess I wanted to talk about that moment. Yeah,
I'm not in love with her. Yeah.
I actually really love that kind of brutal sort of shrugging it off. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that Pam was right to do that, or?
That's a great scene. Thank you so much for bringing it up, because it's just the two of them sitting at this empty bar at the diner. And they're both just kind of like this. And even right before that, too, there's that part where they're shutting the trunk in the parking lot. And she's like, don't look up. And then they both look up. And it's just like
everybody's staring at them.
Everybody's watching them go away. It's so good. And then they're just sitting at the diner, kind of like heads hung low. And Michael goes, do you want some pie? I went through Holly's things. And Pam's like, wait, what?
It's a pie. Went through all his. It's an incredible arc right there too, because it's flipping that thing that what Michael does for Pam is get her to think a little bigger, of like, hey, are you doing your best? And she has a moment where she stands up and says, okay, and she really repays him when she says she's driving the car, and Michael's like, I need what you have. I need closure, you know. And she says, okay, let's go. Yeah. Oh, you're saying, you know, blow off Buffalo and go to Nashua?
And when they walk, and then when they
walk in, Albany? Where do they blow off? Rochester? I don't want to get that wrong. Which branch do they blow off?
I don't know off the top of my head.
To go see Holly.
Oh man, I don't know. I was just watching it. But anyways, they go to Nashua, and I mean too, that when they walk in and and it's like, oh, Holly's not here, but there's her boyfriend sits right over there. and like it shows Rob Hubel, and then like cuts back to Michael and Pam. She has the same look of horror on her face. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like they are just perfectly in sync at this point.
But in that moment, Pam's decision to say, okay, let's go, that saves Michael's life. Like, because that leads them there. That leads Michael to, again, look at that file and realize there's hope and not give up and say, I can wait. I mean, literally everything comes down to that moment. Very similar to, you know, Pam just standing up and leaving and walking out with her, or walking out with Michael. They just do it time and again for each other. And that moment's really, again, one of the only, maybe the other cliffhanger besides Casino Night, actually. I think in Casino Night, I said it's the only cliffhanger in the show. But that two-parter in Lecture Circuit, when she says, okay, let's go, and they smile, and then it cuts the episode. It's like
totally
it's a huge moment. And again, it's just the two of them help each other out just time and again. It's really cool.
I think first of all, they blow off Rochester. That is correct.
Is this Rochester?
Yeah. And then I think second of all, so you talk about how that moment gives Michael hope. And I love thinking about how that influences the company picnic moment at the end of the season. Because Michael, you know, in that moment where Michael and Holly are just sitting on the ground eating strawberries, I want to say.
It's a weird scene. It's weirdly lit. It feels like a fantasy novel.
Yeah, there are a couple of soup snakes just lying in the grass.
Yeah.
That Michael realizes that there's a long story. He says it out loud, and he doesn't give up hope, even though in that moment she's with AJ, and it doesn't seem like their relationship has much promise or future. He's patient, and I don't know if he would be. He might not be if he doesn't have this experience with Pam.
That's right.
I think I wonder if Pam should have read the letter, but it serves the plot very well.
Yeah, ethically it's like no, but there's no way.
But
Pam
romantically,
there's no way Pam could have helped herself to not. It's so juicy.
What about this? Pam is the perfect filter for this letter to get to Michael.
Yeah.
Right? Because what if the letter was like, Michael, you know, we had a good time, but, you know, I have a very different vision for the rest of my life. It was just a short, you know, how she would be able to tell him without him wanting to kill himself, you know?
Right.
I think like he would be able to interpret whatever the message of the letter is and deliver it to him in a way that would be constructive for him.
Do you think there's a possibility that the letter actually did say that and she was trying to let Michael off easy?
Oh,
yeah.
I've never even considered that.
I do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's not over. She still has feelings. Yeah.
I think it's
possible that this letter has been given somewhere else on the internet, or this has been explored, and maybe I just haven't seen it yet, or we haven't seen it yet. But I think it's an interesting thing to think about. That's not
that it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, I mean, truthfully, the letter probably is kind of like it's over. Like it was a good time though. Mm-hmm. Because why wouldn't she write a letter that's like, I don't know, maybe we'll still get married?
Like, I don't mean to keep taking us back to this moment to try to, you know, indict Pam or say that what she did was either right or wrong. I just think it's really interesting to think about that fork in the road.
Well, I think that we can agree that she was being a good friend to Michael in this.
Honestly, we shouldn't be putting the burden on Pam that she read the letter. It's that Michael's copied a file off her computer
and cut a sleeve off her
drive.
sweater.
I mean, that's the big no-no. Like what Pam's doing is just cleaning up Michael's mess.
The funny thing
about
cutting
hold her to a higher standard.
Yeah.
There's no way to explain the sleeve being gone.
That shit is so bad.
So
like,
bad.
And then, do you think Holly had a real?
The way he
you
folds
wonder
it, I don't know
if Holly and Michael ever watched the documentary back together after it supposedly airs, and she sees that scene.
Realize who she's married to. Like, oh my god. Another quick thing about that scene too. I had the exact same thumb drive in college that Michael's using. That little like
those were very
the thing that slips out. That little tab. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I get very nostalgic every time I see it because I was like, man, I transferred so many papers from my computer to the library in college on that same flash drive. Yeah.
I just going back and, you know, I tried to kind of skip through season 1 on to find these moments, and going back and tracking this relationship, I was really impressed at how slowly it built and how at the beginning it's pretty clear what their relationship is. Michael wants to be a Mad Men type, manager with a sexy receptionist and stuff like that, and kind of like, he's got this kind of Todd Packer mentality of, talking about how hot she is in front of the cameras and all this stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Pam wants to be like, yeah, Michael's an idiot. Like, I'm going to gang up with Roy and Jim and all these other people to make fun of him and laugh at him behind his back. And they both learn that these things are wrong and that they're kind of meant to be together. They're kindred spirits.
They provide a moral arc for the show, the two of them together, that outside of the story, outside of the plot, outside of the entertainment of The Office, if we go, what does it all mean? Why does it all matter in the end? And those answers come down to the change in Pam and Michael, and just how they're like, the way they treat each other, the way they don't give up on each other, and the way that they inspire each other is like sort of is a bit of the point, right? Which gets all the way to the end of like, isn't that the point? That sometimes these things we think are insignificant, or these relationships we have, even with your receptionist or your boss, like nurturing those are really what matters,
There's a lot of beauty in ordinary things.
Yeah.
And what we see from Pam and Michael is picking someone up when they're down, or giving them a kind word, or correcting them when they might be misguided, or stopping them from putting their foot in their mouth anymore. All those things come true. And little did we know, maybe they were the sweepstakes all along.
Could be.
Maybe the real surprise was ice cream sandwiches all along.
I don't want to wrap up talking about this without covering anything you guys think we might have missed. Is there?
That was such a good ending point we hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, then I think that it's time to. I think that we'll continue to talk about Pam and Michael, is what I'll say.
Our longest episode,
it really is the heart of the show.
Our longest episode was about Pam, so I'm sure we covered a lot of this in that episode. But I didn't remember any of it because this all felt fresh to talk about.
Yeah, it's always new.
It's they're both so crucial. They're the two biggest pillars of the show.
I thought this is a very little tangential moment, but I thought the surplus. Two things that really stood out to me about that episode. Number one, I felt so bad for Michael when Oscar and Jim invited him out to lunch. Just the real sincere joy that he had, just to think that no one has ever invited him to lunch before. That stood out to me. And then the other
part where Jim pops in is like, "You guys going to lunch? Can I come?"
And then he high-fives Oscar, Jim, and then Pam, who he's leaving in his office.
Yes.
I thought the way that Pam sort of manipulates the situation was really funny. Just the way that she sort of does just enough to get Michael on her side again.
So the game, the way Jim turns after he's like, "I'll see you guys," and he turns and he has the tiramisu and he's just like, gives her that look of just like, yeah, I just played it that way. And then she throws the tiramisu away. It's just great.
Yeah. You look really pretty today. Thank you.
You look really pretty today.
Yeah. I wrote down the surplus too, just for like Pam is finally giving Michael what he always wanted, to just be the flirtatious secretary and really.
He says, I missed it the first time, or how many times I've watched that episode, but when he says he got those new pants and he's like, look at that butt. And he's doing like that. He says he got him in the boys, like DJ Maxx boys section.
Hot tie guy.
Yeah.
Oh God. Or he got his tie at TJ Maxx. I don't know where he got the pants.
Right.
Anyway. Really good stuff. Yeah, those.
Yeah.
Man.
That was fun.
Mind, body, and soul of the show. It's Michael's the soul, and I don't know, maybe Pam's the mind, and Dwight's the body.
Dwight's the
soil.
The soil.
The manure.
On time delivery is the soil.
All right, guys. I think let's move on to some trivia.
So really quickly, we don't have a conference room segment this week. We wanted to make sure that we had enough time to really dive into this topic. So we're just going to go right to trivia.
And prep properly for this topic. Yes. So let's move on to a little bit of trivia.
No more meetings.
So we've got, I just put this together as I was skipping around and rewatching today. So first couple of questions are from the episode The Fire. As he explains it to Ryan, what is Michael's second rule of business?
Is it adapt, react, readapt, act?
It is. Did you say ACT, ACT, or APT?
Act,
ACT.
right?
He says apt as the final word.
No, he
Adapt.
said act, ACT, right?
But
Because he just flips the words around.
is that just what the subtitles say, or does he actually say apt? Is this a
that-
Fisher Bohara situation?
Yeah, we should not get into this again.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
I just thought that it was funny because he does say apt. He says adapt, react, readapt, apt. But
I don't know.
I always thought that it was act.
He takes the re off of react. And anyway, what is your next question?
Yes,
Sorry.
moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. Dwight says someone from the office is absent that day. Who is it? He's going to do a count for everyone.
The day of fire drill?
Yes.
Is it Toby?
It is not Toby.
Is it Creed?
He wants to count off everyone in the parking lot, and he said, and everyone has an assigned number, but Marjorie is not there that day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a deep one. Deep
Yeah.
cut.
Mm-hmm. Whoever Marjorie is, we don't know. Lecture circuit. How much money did Princess Lady cost?
Oh, geez.
Angela's cat, Princess Lady. Meredith's like, blank? I gotta see this.
$10,000, $5,000.
$7,000, $7,000. What age was Kelly when she was in juvie?
She's like 13.
Yeah.
14 to 15.
14 to 15.
For a crime she did commit.
Yeah, the
Yes.
worst year of her life. When Angela accidentally leaves her kitty cam on at work, what excuse does Kevin make up to say that he didn't notice?
Oh, he was looking at pictures of food on his computer.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
And Kevin had Greek food for lunch again.
Yeah. In the episode Dream Team, Jim explains to Kevin how you transfer a call. How do you transfer a call?
Star, extension, star.
Transfer, extension, transfer again.
Okay.
I'll give it to you. What is Michael's Nana's full name? This is my last question.
Barbara Allen.
Oh, Barbara.
Barbara is correct.
Barbara Kebis.
Kebis?
Kebis.
Barbara Kevins.
Nice.
Kebis.
That
Nice
is
job, buddy.
correct. Local investor. Good job, guys.
I just happened to watch that episode, and it stuck in my head. I was like, oh, that'd be a good question. Nice. I actually just wrote down a random couple questions as well here,
Oh, yeah,
great.
give it to me.
real quick,
Oh,
just
please.
because I didn't feel like we could use a couple more.
Mhm.
We find this out also in Dream Team actually. What size shoes does Michael wear?
8.5.
Ooh, close. 9. When he gets bowling shoes from Ryan.
Oh,
Mm.
Okay, and also when Dwight is trying to convince Aaron that their building used to be a brothel and there's a ghost,
Mhm.
what's the name of the woman that was murdered on this very floor at 1816?
Hattie McGonigal.
Hattie McGonigal. Very good.
Oh,
She was a
thank you.
prostitute. That's all.
Is that a Harry Potter reference?
I don't know.
Hattie McGonigal. I know it's very close
McGonagall?
to saying
Mhm.
Harry.
Oh my- Well, you guys, that was a great episode and fun trivia. And please, everybody out there, we didn't do any listener questions today, but we need your listener questions because we got mailbag episodes coming up soon. So give us a call. That's 503-694-9314. You can call us and leave us a message. We like to play the voicemails on the show. You can email us.
Yeesh.
mspodcastcompany@gmail.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Michael Scott Podcast Company. We're on Twitter @Michael Scott Pod. We're got a website, michaelscottpod.com. Special thanks to Ryan Lloyd, who helps us with our social media and designs all our artwork and suggested this as an episode topic.
I have a actually request for people sending stuff in. if you
Yeah,
don't mind, because we with the last couple of episodes we've done the quarantine quarter, just sort of catching up on our lives and stuff. But nothing's happening, so we ran out of stuff to talk about. But I want to hear I just want to hear how it's going for people out there a little bit, and especially like how has The Office, is it more or less? Is there anything specifically with The Office in quarantine that's been on your mind? It doesn't even have to be something you noticed about the show, but just like how are you guys doing? Because this show has shown us that there's just a massive community of The Office, and so how is the community doing? How are you?
That is the best part about doing this podcast. When we set out to do this, it was just Edwin and I talking about The Office for a few hours at the bar one night, and it was just like, we should do this as a show. Maybe people will like it.
It was the culmination of the three of us talking about The Office for several years.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, it was like, man, we've never stopped talking about this.
And you guys called me that night, and you're like, Alex, you seen The Office? And I was like, never. Watch it. We need you to produce our show.
But as we've talked about it with each other, I think what's actually been the best part about doing this is the expansion of the conversation. You guys all sending us questions and causing us to think differently about the show and hearing your opinions and stuff. You don't have to send us a question. Send us an opinion. Send us a hot take. We love to hear that stuff.
Yeah, it turns out Dwight's treasure was the friends we made along the way.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, thank you as always. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Stay healthy. Take care.
Pippity poppy, give me the side.
Yes, sir.
Threat level who? Michael's gone. Threat level why? Apartheid. Gotta fight it. Free Mandela. Peace, I'm out.